Hello, good morning. Good morning, everybody. This is Engineer Suraj Singh speaking from Bharat, India on this day, August 20, 2021, Friday. Just few minutes ago, my starting video was disrupted. It was ended. So I reconnected on another video because we cannot continue like that, first one. So it is second one, and I'll have to try how long it works. It is happening. I don't know Airtel. I don't want to criticize Airtel, but something is happening which should not happen. I was talking of quality issue in this session. I continue that one, and I was talking about deteriorating states of quality, particularly in our country and all over world as well. I cannot simply say that our bad quality. I think quality has broken, is dropped all over the world to some extent, and we are best in that. We are leader in quality breaking, in quality destruction. Our people or our nation, I can't say. Now nations are also not different, yet we can say our nation's quality is not to that mark it should be, and I don't know everything about other nations. And was talking about COVID-19 issue because COVID-19 has impacted on everybody in terms of stress and a strain. As I said, a strain is change. Original change means it cannot be recovered, it cannot be, you can say, it has to be permanently accepted. Yeah, just like change in length over original length, we say it is a strain, or change in area over original area, or we can say change in volume over original volume. Usually we call them strain in respective measurements. Linear strain, superficial strain, or you can say volumetric strain, whatever you say in our material or science language. That change has happened on humanity all over the world because of COVID-19, which is a point of safety, health and environment. And all these have been impacted upon by intrusion or by invasion, I should say invasion of COVID-19 onto humanity. Humanity has been affected, and humanity has proved that it is very much immunity less. Immunity we call means resistance to accept something or not to allow something to come in, or I mean to say I should be strong enough to face difficulties in my life, to digest certain kind of pain in my life without causing or without having any troublesome issue with me. That immunity level, I think, in those people who are not used to work physically excessively, or who just want to live physically and enjoy mechanism of everything, or who want to enjoy luxurious life, immunity level of those people have been adversely impacted. This is what I think. Maybe I am wrong. I have not done research on that, but a feeling of news and observation that tells me this is happening. COVID-19 has not impacted upon all world quantitatively to that extent as it could do. I think just maybe 5 crore people have been affected, or 2 crore people have been affected, they say like that. But mental state of whole world has been affected. Minds have been changed by COVID. Mental power has been cocked in just like we do lead caulking in soil pipes. That cocked in has come into minds, and in fact minds have been blocked. Minds have been blocked, or minds were not that serious, or our defective education could not understand that. Despite having thousands and thousands top class scientists all over the world who have been busy in observing COVID-19 performance, its actions, They have not helped world understand about COVID-19 till now. Maybe something wrong somewhere in our system of education, or analytical work has gone, or maybe we are not having that open knowledge about medical science. I read news every day, particularly COVID news early morning and whole day, because there is no other issue that is very serious now except COVID-19. Economical issues, other disease issues are not to that profile higher that COVID-19 today stands. COVID-19 has a unique power that others don't have. It doesn't listen to anybody. It does dictate. It least cares about health. It says, listen to me, but it doesn't speak that. It says, I am there to teach you, but it doesn't say I am teacher. It states, I am a complete changer. I change you, but it doesn't show it. It does it. Today, whole world stands on that silver lining, that sword line. It can't do anything except speculations, except just successfully reading or trying to read what has been happening. COVID-19, you can say till now, is speculative, it is imaginative, though we have caused losses. Crores of people have left this world, and maybe more leave this world. To what extent? No one can say anything. What is COVID-19 till today? There has been no clear understanding. No clear understanding by anybody. Scientists, doctors, others, all only make claims and states exist today. So much, you can say, confusing news. So much, you can say, clashing opinions. One person says one part, another person says encountering of that. It is happening. Today, because of COVID, vaccines or inoculation has become very, very important activity with all 8 billion people on earth. Everybody wants vaccination. Yes, it should be. It should be wanted by everybody for sake of survival, for sake of having resistance against COVID-19. But my point is that you know all that there is no solution till today. Defeating, as they call, defeating, but I should not say defeating, treating, you can say, curing. I want to be cured, you want to be cured. Just, imaginary application of creating or enhancing levels of immunity doesn't mean anything. It's just, I think, not more than 6 months these vaccinations have been started. But results are, I can't say that encouraging as should be. Even today, or in a couple of days, whatever news we received, whatever opinions we received all over world over, these are not mature one. These are not scientific one. Means many statements from scientists, from professors, from WHO. Everything leads to state of confusion, which can further lead to living trust on vaccinations. What they say, all these people, it doesn't give confidence in people. Yes, people are under compulsion, they are going to vaccinate for immunity, but I'm not finding any immunity is granted. People don't have immunity because of different level of life they enjoy. Yes, if you take case of those people who work in sun, they may be hard workers, like construction community workers. and also farming community workers. They may have higher levels of physical immunity, but all others who are luxurious life oriented, who cannot stay without AC, who cannot walk, who always use air conditioned cars, or who are born to fly, you can't find higher level of immunity among them. And that is because of their living standards, though they call these standards high level, but I call these standards, you can say, false level. Just like is a false ceiling, we say false ceiling it is, which is not real ceiling, speculative ceiling to hide something. When you use false ceiling in rooms, it's because we don't want to see services pipe running above that. Same thing, this life is luxurious. They don't want to show something, they want to show, see, I am rich, I have so many cars, I have so many bungalows, and I have so much money. Okay, that's one part. Means they are purchased now. They have kept their immunity level behind such power of money. Material dominates onto their minds. These people are available everywhere. That they live if they have money, and if they don't have money today, most of them shall commit suicide. This means where is immunity? If just because you have to face problems, you have to face struggles because of variation in levels of your funding, you are going to commit suicide? This means you are so weak that you can't digest heat because you are happy with air conditioning. You can't walk because you have car. Where is immunity then? After the vaccination also it's same. It is same. There is no change. Means if somebody claims these vaccinations are reliable, well, I don't accept with that. Yes, vaccination is one part of life. It is from loss prevention point of view. It's you can say pre-stage protective measure. It's very nice. I'm not saying, but those who manufactured these and those who worked on scientific requirements of this, they themselves are not confident. Problem lies there. Manufacturers or those scientists who worked for vaccinations, they themselves are not sure. No one has concrete confidence. They only trials. Okay, if 2 vaccinations don't work, we give booster. Third one, what does it mean? This means you are giving something, you are not clear of that. Today you say, oh, this shall work only for 6 months or 8 months. This means after lapse of 6 months or 8 months, again we have to vaccinate. So this is permanent program, I can say, indirectly saying. Today you did 2 vaccinations, you got, it will work for say 8 or 9 months, then you have to take another one, after that another one. So this looks like whole life business for them and whole life problem for public of world. Societies are getting crazy to get oxygen, to say these vaccines, and also other way, some people are rigid not to have this vaccination. Because of this non-clarity, this problem of COVID-19 has not been understood, how it works, how it can be understood. Analysis have not been conducted. I'm not saying they have not been, but I don't have any such detailed news that one can claim we know today what is virus COVID-19 and we understand how it becomes, so we can find solution. That stays still, remains in speculation. When shall this happen? I don't know. I'm not disgracing you. I'm saying no problem. Just something is better than nothing. Vaccination is something that is better. But that something should also be confined to some reservation. You cannot keep everything non-quality level. Till now there is no quality understanding of COVID-19. Yes, we are behind safety. Safety is one part. Those companies who are manufacturing these vaccines, they have earned trillions, maybe billions, maybe, I don't know. I have information that Fixture had already made $13 billion. $13 billion they have already made. Or there is deadline by which they will make. This means for them it is very, very shining business. At what cost? At cost of unknown. Unknown. It is a fact that we don't know what is this. But because we have no other solution, we do it. They are trying now without knowing what they did on vaccines, without being clear on that. Now they are trying for ultraviolet rays application and also for refreshing air. All right, refreshing air or application of ultraviolet power or rays. This can be done. Purification of air is not easy. It's not going to work. Yes, in some area, in some space, in your home or in your accommodation, you can arrange something. It may give benefits from other impurities entry, if not COVID-19. You can get rid of dust, you can get rid of suffocation, you can get rid of something which you can't otherwise. Even then, if you say ultraviolet is very, ultraviolet penetration was, God is itself protected its earth reaching capacity. We have, if you say in our aerospace around our earth, we'll find that there is a layer which is called ozone layer, which is just near space, start of space. That layer protected entry of or passage of ultraviolet rays to public, to people, to humanity. That layer also has been adversely impacted because of pollution, because of greenhouse gases, and because of many such inputs which are not required in air. That ozone layer is also now, I can't say that it isn't depleted, but it has been defected. It has been, you can say, corroded. Because that has been corroded, ultraviolet index on earth, that should be 2 or 3 minimum or maximum, we can say. It has become 11, 12 somewhere, and generally in hot season like now, it's around 11, around 10 for a couple of hours, 2 hours or 3 hours in daytime. It's actually daily record that I see on AccuWeather. This happen. This means if ultraviolet can help, I think it's easiest one. If I have sun in daytime, and if I just, you can say, absorb some sun rays at time when index UVI is around 10, 8, 9, I will get sufficient quantity of ultraviolet radiations into my body. And this may help because this is very powerful entry. It can penetrate skin as well, and this way we can get not only ultraviolet penetrations but also vitamin D, which is also very much powerful for enhancing body's immunity. This is common sense. There's no need of any medical science in that. If you are weak, if you have sun every day, you take sun bath or you go in sun for a couple of minutes or hours, or not hours, you may say just half an hour, you will get refreshed. You will feel energetic. That's from safety viewpoint. Of course, you would sweat. You listen sweating, but that sweating is, I can say, expulsion of impurities from body. or you can say your body is heated up, certainly you shall take some water for that replenishment of heat, and you will get sweat out, and of course your body shall refresh. It will be re-energized. Of course you will get some fatigue, but that fatigue would be instantaneous and go away. And if you conduct that every day, there is always improvement in your immunity, because your body is heated every day. Mosquitoes shall run away from you. That point is very clear, because your temperature of skin is higher and that heat is absorbed by your body. For sure, if you don't use AC, and if you use AC to cool it down, this won't work. That is a little, you can say, reservation here. Use AC, but don't be slave to AC. Don't think that AC is your life. I'm just recommending that. I have been using AC also, I don't say no, but for a couple of years I stopped using it. Means I have tried to avoid it. Okay, fine. I understand that everybody cannot do it. That is true, because you have capacity to spend money, and you can do. You can't go in sun, because you are royal, you are king. You can't sweat. You should not sweat. You consume fats. You eat non-vegetarian food. You eat chicken. You eat all other meats, and then you want immunity. There is no direct relation. Your body has become a pool of fats, and you want to raise immunity. There is no way out. A dam of fats exists in your body. That dam contains water in forms of fats. Those must go out, and they can go out only when you bake yourself in sun for a couple of minutes a day. Bake yourself, because that is uniform penetration of ultraviolet rays throughout your body. But even if you are covered fully, that radiation without any payment to sun, you shall get complete injection, complete vaccinations of ultraviolet, and that shall increase your biological immunity and may help against COVID-19 penetration, COVID-19 infection. I'm just saying based on my common sense, because when you drink cold water, you feel happy at tongue level, you will feel happy at throat level, but you shall not feel happy at stomach level, because when this water energy is distributed to other parts of body, that's cold energy, and it will diminish your immunity. This point also we have to understand. We drink tea or coffee, that is different, because it's also hot water, but it has many more energies like milk energy and tea leaf energy, and in some cases, of course, that is carbohydrate, but sugar energy. When you drink hot water, which is very difficult for everybody, but I've seen people, some exclusive exceptions are there. They drink hot water, and hot water expels fats from body. If you consume fats every day, and if you drink hot water, I think that is directly proportional to its right use. Otherwise, you have to suffer because of non-equilibrium of cold and hot. In body, it is medical temperature 98.4, or I think 27 or something it is. And when temperature is 27 to 30 degrees in your body Celsius, and you drink water at 0 degrees or 10 degrees or 15 degrees, I think it will harm certainly. There's a temperature difference between two. Means if it's very hot temperature in weather is maybe 40 degrees, and internal body temperature may be 40 degrees if you are healthy, and if it is less than that, means higher temperature flows to lower temperature according to scientific principles. That heat shall penetrate your body and raise temperature of your, or if you want to contain, then it will keep on transferring to your body, and you need water at that time, because your level of 27 degrees goes to 40 degrees, and 13 degree rise means you want enough water inside. But if you drink hot water that time, it will help. It will help because later, maybe for a couple of minutes, you feel uneasy when you drink this water, but later on, you will feel happy, you will be pleased for a couple of hours. That's why I say issue of hot water always. Whenever I write recommendations of against COVID-19, I usually write that drink hot water, stay non-AC as much as possible, particularly in critical times, critical hours. But people never care for this. This maybe some idiot person who's written all this. People think so. No problem at all. You can call anything, but if you can have some benefit of that, you get that benefit. It's in your benefit. So it's therefore, I would say when you enter a room, it's hot, it's summer. If your room was closed, better use some ceiling fan for a couple of minutes. Or if you don't have ceiling fan, then table fan or some other fan. At least there is some movement in air, and if there is some aerosol available in your room, it can either fall or it can be treated otherwise. There are rare chances it may infect you, but in majority of cases that would drop by force of air and will go to floor. And of course, some corners in room where it's not possible for ceiling fan to cause turbulence in that air. In that case, you can say you have to find some other treatment which can impact on corners also, where suffocation should go away. Otherwise, when you feel suffocation, you'll feel everywhere in your room or wherever you go to live. So what I mean to say, in addition to, you can say, taking vaccines, there are many more ways which we can call precautionary measures that should be resorted to and applied for better handling of COVID-19. Don't say better fighting. We have no capacity to fight with COVID-19 because we don't understand this and we don't understand enemy. We don't know how it's going to work. How can we say that we can protect ourselves from that? Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, whatever it is. So till now, delta has been very prominent all over the world, and it is a cause of concern, and nobody can say no. And every day we are getting unpleasant news from USA, from England, from Australia, from New Zealand, from Arab, and from many other parts of the world like Indonesia, Malaysia. Means there is no one place, Africa. We are getting unpleasant news from many corners of the world. So we should be very much concerned about that, and that's the reason that I talk of quality within ourselves. I'm not talking of quality about substance or material or product. I'm saying quality within ourselves. We have to think about safety considerations in ourselves, because it's a part of safety to handle COVID-19, how to handle. Maybe we can't understand it, we can't, remove it, but protection to ourselves can be done. At least self-defense is best way if you do not know who's your enemy. So only way is that I'm finding people now being careless. They have worn out their masks, masks having worn out, thinking cases are falling, but they don't understand facts. Whole community don't understand facts, that cases are falling not because of this, because of some of the reasons, that you are not giving right news, you are censoring news, because of political reasons, you don't tell people. That could be projection of my speculation. We have to be qualitative in our approach as far as everybody's health is concerned. We have to be qualitative in safety issues, and we have to be certainly qualitative in engineering issues. COVID-19 has caused changes in engineering also. Change in office work. It's caused change in social life. Such a changer. We always say that engineer is a change of is a change agent. We call engineers as change agents. We are only change agents. But COVID-19 is a changer. Lot of difference. It's our boss's boss. Changer. Not only society, everything else, every other world else. We have to be very careful. So I'm just trying to communicate to everybody. Do not be shy while using mask. I have seen people that they have been ignorant. They laugh, they smile, the children play, but they don't care for masks. Nobody cares for masks, and it's not good if somebody tells you, I don't want to see you without mask, because mask is a standard now until COVID is there. Standard of living up, standard of protection from diseases. That's what we say. Just like quality is required, safety is required, mask is required, face mask is required, and if possible, glasses or goggles or spectacles are also required. So easy solution we have failed to understand. We talk a lot, this certificate, that certificate, this passport, that passport. Your passport is protection. Passport, everybody is seriousness. Just like we are serious about our body's health, we should be serious about protective measures that should be taken against COVID-19. Safety is very important, quality is very important. We have to think of all this all time. Now, because it's enough time, I forwarded my views on COVID and safety. We go back to our space. We're talking of confined spaces, entry, etc. I discussed this in details last time, and I think I have document like Wikipedia Health. Let's see which document is here. Let us see Wikipedia first. I downloaded this just for concern, and what it says, let us see. Confined space, what is said in public domain, that is Wikipedia. A confined space is one with limited entry and egress, or you can say limited ingress and egress, and not suitable for human inhabitation. Not suitable for human inhabitants. I should think, okay. A confined space is one with limited entry and egress, and not suitable for human inhabitation. An example is interior of storage tank, occasionally entered by maintenance workers but not intended for human occupancy. Hazards in a confined space often include harmful dust or gases, asphyxiation, submersion in liquids, or free-flowing granular solids. For example, grain bins, electrocution, or entrapment. Confined space accidents are of particular concern in occupational safety and health due to hazards that they pose to victim and subsequently to a rescue team. Confined space training outlines skills and protocols for safe entry to confined spaces and includes precautions and breathable air quality, forced ventilation, observation of workers in space, and a predetermined rescue plan with appropriate safety harnesses and other rescue equipment standing by. Now, what are here? Contents in this is, we have to talk of, as I said, cold work or hot work in confined spaces. We have to describe, we have to think of atmospheric hazards, we have to think of entry certifications, we have to think of injuries and fatalities, to think of rescue and others. So what is the description? Let us say although 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 definition of a confined space varies between jurisdictions, it is generally recognized as follows. It has limited or restricted means of entry or exit, that is point number 1, and is large enough for a person to enter to perform tasks. Is not designed or configured for continuous occupancy. You can say a utility tunnel inside of a boiler only accessible when boiler is put off. Inside of a fluid storage tank, a septic tank that has contained sewage and a small underground electrical vault are all examples of confined spaces. Ships and other vessels commonly have confined spaces due to need for compartmentalized watertight construction. Exact definition of a confined space varies depending on type of industry. Until recently, confined spaces on a construction site were defined differently than confined spaces in general industry, such as a paper mill. That changed due to a new confined space regulation for construction. Confined spaces that present special hazards to workers, including risks of toxic or asphyxiant gas accumulation, fires, falls, flooding, and entrapment, may be classified as permit required confined spaces, depending on nature and severity of hazard. Even normally habitable parts of a building, such as corridors or offices, may take on characteristics of confined space during operations that alter normal ventilation and access. For example, a room may be wrapped in plastic sheeting for painting, and whatever vapor emitted in room may not be dispersed by blocked ventilation ducts. But these areas would not be defined as confined spaces by OSHA. Entry into permit required confined spaces must comply with regulations promulgated by OSHA. These regulations include developing a written program, issuing entry permits, assigning attendants, designating entrance, and ensuring a means of rescue. According to OSHA, a permit required confined space has 3 characteristics listed above, which define a confined space, and one or more of following: contains or has potential to contain a hazardous atmosphere, contains a material that has potential for engulfing entrant, has an internal configuration that might cause an entrant to be trapped or asphyxiated by inwardly converging walls or by a floor that slopes downwards and taps into smaller cross section, contains whatever other recognized serious safety or health hazards. In addition to hazards posed by design of space, work activities can also pose serious safety hazards, which is heat, noise, vapors, etc., that must be taken into account when identifying safety measures that must be taken. Atmospheric hazards. Most common hazards seen in confined spaces is that of atmosphere. These affect air quality, present immediate hazards to health and life. Acceptable atmospheric conditions must be verified before entry and must be monitored continuously while space is occupied. Oxygen concentration, presence of toxic gases, and flammable material are 3 conditions that must be monitored. According to OSHA, oxygen concentration is considered safe if it is lies between 19.5 and 23.5% of total atmosphere. To protect against toxic gases, contaminants have permissible exposure limits (PEL) which are set by OSHA. Work also cannot continue if concentration of a material reaches or exceeds 10% of its lower exposure limit. Even if a tank or similar vessel initially is tested and found to contain breathable air, a hazard can develop during operations inside tank if residues inside tank can release toxic gases or vapor when disturbed or if accidentally ignited. Steel water tanks may have dangerously low oxygen concentrations when interior truss. In many situations, certification of non-hazardous atmosphere by a trained or competent person is required before person may enter a confined space without use of respirator. In the United States Navy, that person is designated shipboard gas-free engineer. In maritime sector, an NFPA certified marine chemist is required to perform testing in all confined spaces that have contained a flammable, combustible or toxic substance. Certification in civilian settings can be under OSHA regulations, is designated by employer and ensures that space is safe to enter and hazards are controlled. In US, agriculture operations are exempted from regulations governing permit required confined spaces, which is specific to general industry, but they are still required to identify and control confined space hazards. Injuries and fatalities. Injuries and fatalities involving confined spaces are frequent and often involve successive fatalities when would-be rescuers succumb to same problem as initial victim. In 1980s, approximately 60% of fatalities involve would-be rescuers and more than 30% of fatalities occur in a space that has been tested and found to be safe to enter. One example was in 2006 at decommissioned Sullivan Mine in British Columbia, Canada, when one initial victim and then three rescuers all died. Accidents in confined spaces present unique challenges and are often catastrophic, such as Axel Energy Cabin Cheek Fire in 2007. In 1999, Northwest OHS released a study of confined space fatalities based on reports from Occupational Safety and Health Administration, National Institute of Occupational Safety Health, and Mines Safety and Health Administration, with a breakdown of their causes. Researchers believe that following numbers are only a fraction of fatal confined space. So this is just statistics. I'm not interested in statistics, so let's go further. Notes and references, external links. So this is over. I close this, right? I'll go to another confined space now. That is, we'll go to health. What is that? Let's see. It's 11 pages, and I think I'll leave something to you now. What is a confined space? It's going to announce itself. Just give me a couple of minutes so that we can be back. It's important for me just now for 5 minutes to go up and come down. Meanwhile, you can read this document, which is very small but very much important for everybody. I'll be back in a couple of minutes, please. Hold on. Okay, I was here. Sorry, gentlemen. I'm sorry what to do. This is daily requirement for me. What I said, I was talking about confined space, and it is very simple in that I again defined it. It's important. A confined space refers to whatever place, including whatever vessel, tank, container, pit, bunth, chamber, cellar, or some other similar space, which by virtue of its enclosed nature creates conditions that give rise to a likelihood of an accident, harm, or injury of such a nature as to require emergency action. Again, I say, confined space refers to whatever place or every place, including vessel, tank, container, pit, bunth, chamber, cellar, or other similar space, which by virtue of enclosed nature creates conditions that give rise to a likelihood of an accident, harm, or injury of such a nature as to require emergency action due to presence or reasonable foreseeable presence of flammable or explosive atmospheres, harmful gas, fume or vapor, free flowing solid, or an increasing level of liquid, excess of oxygen, excessively high temperature, lack of reasonably foreseeable lack of oxygen. What are key characters that define a confined space? Are hazard associated with confined space. And must be before that, space must be substantially enclosed. Space must be substantially enclosed. There must be a risk of at least one of hazards listed above, including or occurring within space. Risk of serious injury from hazard must be created by virtue of enclosed nature of space. Potential injury must be serious and be such as to require an emergency action to rescue person. What are hazards associated with confined space? What are hazards associated with confined spaces? These are toxic atmosphere, oxygen deficiency and oxygen enrichment, flammable or explosive atmospheres, flowing liquid or free flowing solids, excessive heat. So let us read one by one. Toxic atmosphere. What is that? You know meaning of toxic? Toxic atmosphere may cause various acute effects, including impairment of judgment, unconsciousness and death. A toxic atmosphere may occur due to presence or ingress of hazardous substances. These substances may be present in confined space for various reasons, such as remaining from previous processing or storage, remaining from previous processing or storage, arising from disturbance of sludge and other deposits, arising from disturbance of sludge or other deposits, presence of fire or flames within space, seepage from improperly isolated adjoining plant, formation during work processes carried out in space, being released from underscale and in brickwork as a result of work processes. I again repeat. Says a toxic atmosphere may occur due to presence of ingress of hazardous substances. These substances may be present in confined space for various reasons, which are: number one, remaining from previous processing or storage, arising from disturbance of sludge and other deposits, presence of a fire or flames within space, seepage from improperly isolated adjoining plant, formation during work processes carried out in space, being released from underscale and in brickwork as a result of work processes. Oxygen deficiency. Oxygen can be lacking in confined space for following reasons: displacement of air by another gas, various biological processes or chemical reactions such as rotting of organic matter, rusting of metals, burning, etc. Absorption of air onto steel surfaces, especially where these are damp. Oxygen enrichment. An excess of oxygen in presence of combustible material results in an increased risk of fire and explosion. Some materials which do not burn in air may burn vigorously or even spontaneously in an enriched oxygen atmosphere. Flammable or explosive atmospheres. A flammable atmosphere presents a risk of fire or explosion. Such an atmosphere can arise from presence in confined space of flammable liquids or gases, or of a suspension of combustible dust in air. If a flammable atmosphere inside a confined space ignites, an explosion may occur, resulting in expulsion of hot gases and disintegration of structure. Flowing liquid or free flowing solids. Liquids or solids can flow into confined space, causing drowning, suffocation, burns, and other injuries. Solids in powder form may also be disturbed in a confined space, resulting in an asphyxiation or asphyxiating atmosphere. Asphyxiating atmosphere. Excessive heat. Enclosed nature of confined space can increase risk of heat stroke or collapse from heat stress. If conditions are excessively hot, risk may be exacerbated by wearing of personal protective equipment or by lack of ventilation. What are legal requirements in regard to confined space entry? Safety, health and welfare at work where confined spaces exist. Regulations 2001 cover all work in relation to confined spaces. Now, what regulation, whatever I'm talking is, means applies, but it contains technicality, that's important. A person shall not carry out a confined spaces. A person shall not carry out work in confined spaces if it's reasonably practical that it could be avoided. That means avoid this if possible. If work must be carried out, hazard identification and risk assessment must be conducted or carried out prior to work commencing. A person shall not enter a confined space unless there is a system of work in place that has been planned, organized, performed and maintained so as to render that work safe and without risk to health. Whosoever enters a confined space must be provided with appropriate information, training and instructions appropriate to particular characteristics of proposed work activities. What are legal requirements in emergency arrangements of confined spaces? And before that, I would like to, just a minute please, that word was, it was a term in SI. It is, where is that gone? I think I should notice that time. No problem. We'll see. Sometimes I keep in mind something to explain to you later on, and I can't find that one. It happens. It usually happens sometimes with everybody. No problem. I'll find it other time. Asphyxiation is cause. Yes, asphyxiating. Let me find a solution to that. What is meaning of this? That is, asphyxiation. A-V-H. Means, it is very simple meaning, to make someone become unconscious or die. That's meaning of this. So we go further in this and see what happens. So it says, now we go to legal meaning of this. What are legal requirements in relation to emergency arrangements for confined spaces? What are those? It is regulation 6, and now it says a person shall not enter a confined space unless there is a suitable emergency arrangements have been made. A person shall not enter a confined space unless there is a suitable emergency arrangements have been made which are appropriate to confined space in question. Emergency arrangements shall include all practical measures necessary to ensure health and safety of those taking part in rescue. Provision of suitable and reliable means of raising alarm in event of an emergency. Having all necessary rescue equipment nearby and in a well-maintained good condition. Provision of information, instruction and training to all involved in rescue procedures. Provision of equipment and training for resuscitation procedures if there is a foreseeable risk that they be needed. So all means all measures must be ensured regarding health, safety and for those taking part. Then you can say alarm for emergency must be there. And you can say all rescue equipments must be maintained properly and must be in good condition, and information, instruction, training to all involved in rescue, and equipment and training for resuscitation procedures if it's foreseeable risk. Now, what must I look for a confined space risk assessment? What should I do for that? What should I do for that? That's my question. When carrying out a risk assessment, it is important to ensure that all risks associated with hazards are evaluated and controlled. When carrying out a risk assessment, these questions should be asked, and these questions are: what could be inside space that would pose a risk? What will be created due to work carried out in space? What's outside space that might pose a risk during proposed work? So what could be inside space? What should be contents of that? Contents, oxygen deficiency, previous contents, oxygen enrichment, residues, structure and layout, contamination. Contents. What is content? It's very easy to understand. Oxygen deficiency, that's very common. Previous contents, oxygen enrichment, residues, structure and layout, contamination. What will be created due to work carried out in space? Sources of ignition, flammable substances. What's outside space that might pose a risk during proposed work? Inadequate isolation, inadvertent operation of plant, nearby work activities. Are there certain exemptions from safety, health and welfare in confined spaces regulations? Regulations do not apply to place below ground in a mine. This regulation does not apply to whatever place below ground in a mine or to whatever diving operations. What are key elements of a safe system of work for a confined space? Key elements to be considered when drawing up a safe system of work are competence, training, supervision and suitability, permit to work procedure, gas purging and ventilation, dangerous residues, testing and monitoring of atmosphere, mechanical, electrical and process isolation, respiratory protective equipment, other personal protective equipment, safe use of work equipment, communications, access and egress, flammable or explosive atmosphere, combustible materials. I can again speak that. Key elements to be considered when drawing up a safe system of work in confined space, that is competence, training, supervision and suitability. But PTW, that's called permit to work procedure, gas purging and ventilation, dangerous residues, testing and monitoring atmosphere, mechanical, electrical and process isolation, respiratory protective equipment, other personal protective equipment, Safe use of work equipment. So it is respiratory equipment, respiratory protective equipment, others personal protective equipments. Safe use of work equipment, communication, access and egress, flammable or explosive atmosphere, combustible material. What is permit to work procedure? What is permit to work procedure? A permit to work procedure is a means of achieving effective control of a system of work through formal written documentation known as permit to work form. Essential components of permit to work system include written procedure which sets out how system is to operate and clearly defines who may authorize particular jobs and who is responsible for specifying and implementing necessary precautions. A form known as Permit to Work Form (PTW), which becomes a written and signed statement ensuring both establishment of safe conditions for work to commence and maintenance of safe conditions for duration of work, including provision of emergency arrangements. A method of informing persons carrying out work of exact identity, location, nature and extent of job, hazards involved and precautions to be taken. A system for ensuring safe handback of workplace, a system for ensuring safe handback of workplace after job is complete and in case of confined space entry after space is vacated. Where can I get sample permit form? So I think this is also over. No, this other pages are no practical pages. So we must close this file. Thank you very much, and I'll go to next file. That is also small if you compare to, it is also confined space overdrive. It says I showed to you yesterday this one, the small pages, what is confined space in this case, and this is confined space like that, it can say it says many workplaces contain areas that are considered confined spaces because while they are not necessarily designed for people, they are large enough for workers to enter and perform certain jobs. A confined space also has limited or restricted means for entry or exit and is not designed for continuous occupancy. Confined spaces include but are not limited to tanks, vessels, silos, storage bins, hoppers, vaults, pits, manholes, tunnels, equipment, housing, ductwork, pipelines, etc. OSHA uses the term permit required confined space, permit space to describe a confined space that has one or more of following characteristics: contains or has potential to contain a hazardous atmosphere, contains material that has potential to engulf an entrant, has walls that converge inwards or floors that slope downwards and tap into a smaller area, which could trap or asphyxiate an entrant, or contains other recognized safety or health hazard such as unguarded machinery, exposed live wires or heat stress. Then you can say there's nothing else, I think. That is what it says, highlights. Calibrating and testing direct reading portable gas monitors. Calibrating and testing. Let me just blow it up. Calibrating and testing direct reading portable gas monitors. OSHA safety and health information bulletins, provides workers and employers guidance on calibrating and testing direct reading portable gas monitors, loss of start up oxygen. I think these are only references. So I don't think there's something special in this. So I'll come back to confined space entry and we'll go to what is this we talked of, and I think I talked of this in details, and we were somewhere this we did, and this of course we can say yes, the supervisors and attendants, we studied that last time. We studied all that. Just to refresh what we studied, I like to go through duties of authorized supervisors. So we'll do this first. What is duty of entry supervisor? Contractor and subcontractor. Contractor and subcontractor shall ensure that each entry supervisor, what should he do? One should be aware of hazards that may be encountered during entry, including information on mode, signs or symptoms and consequences of exposure. Say confirms by checking that appropriate entries have been made on permit, that all tests indicated by permit have been conducted, that all procedures and equipment indicated by permit are provided prior to issuing permit and allowing entry to begin. Discontinues entry and terminates permit. Discontinues entry and terminates permit as required by this program. Confirms that rescue services are available and that means for notifying them are operable. Prevents unproved individuals to enter permit space during entry operations and ascertains whenever responsibility for a permit space entry operation is transferred at periods mandated by hazards and operations performed within a space, that entry operations remain dependable with terms of entry permit and that permissible entry conditions are maintained. If an entrant has potential to be exposed to a substance for which a material safety data sheet required to be kept at work, written information shall be made available to medical facility treating exposed entrant. Duties of attendants: remains outside permit space during entry operations. That person remains outside permit space unless relieved by another authorized attendant. Do not enter confined space under whatever circumstances. Other one, attendant cannot enter confined space under whatever circumstances. Perform non-entry rescues when specified by employer's rescue procedure. Know existing and potential hazards, including information on mode of exposure, signs or symptoms, consequences of exposure and respective consequential physiological effects. Have immediately available all emergency rescues equipment on site and all personal protective equipment same as used by entrant to use at once in case of requires entry. So it says have immediately available all emergency rescue equipment on site and all personal protective equipment same as used by entrant to use at once in case of required entry. Maintain communication with and keep an accurate account of those workers entering into permit required confined space. Order evacuation of permitted confined space when a prohibited condition exists. Maintains communication with and keep an accurate account of those workers entering into permit required confined space. Order evacuation of permitted confined space when a prohibited condition exists. When a worker shows sign of physiological effects of hazard exposure, when an emergency outside confined space exists, and when attendant cannot effectively and safely perform required duties. Summon rescue and other services during an emergency. Ensure that unauthorized persons are not allowed to enter permitted confined spaces. To remove personnel immediately if they have entered permitted confined space. Inform authorized entrants and entry supervisor of entry by unauthorized persons. Perform no other duties that interfere with attendant's primary duty. Duties of authorized entrants. Duties of authorized entrants means who is in front in space, confined space. Should know space hazards. Should know space hazards, including information on mode of exposure, namely inhalation or thermal absorption, signs of symptoms and consequences of exposure, use appropriate personal protective equipment properly, such as gloves, aprons, and coveralls. As necessary, maintain communication, that is telephone, radio, visual, as well as to alert entrants to evacuate. Exit from permitted confined space immediately when ordered by attendant or supervisor, competent person, or when entrant recognizes warning signs or symptoms of exposure exists, when a prohibited condition exists, or when an automatic alarm is activated. Alert attendant when a prohibited condition exists or when warning signs or symptoms of exposure exist. Do you understand what is that? Now we'll move to now. This was confined space, and we will go to now. Road safety and vehicles. Let's open this. closed confined space. We see how it works. It's also small, it's not very big. Road safety and vehicle operating conduct, this is very common, and it applies to all vehicles and drivers belonging to EPC contractor and its subcontractor. It's very ordinary topic, but we have to understand maybe there are errors in that. Now, objective of this procedure is to ensure that all vehicles used by EPC contractor are fit for intended purpose. All drivers are suitably qualified for vehicle pay, operate, and they should be provided with clearly written or explained procedure in order to safely carry vehicle related operations. All drivers are suitably qualified for vehicle they operate, and they should be provided with clearly written or explained procedure in order to safely carry vehicle related operations. Driving on projects areas cannot be affected to same speed as on public roads. Defensive driving is required on site roads. Drivers must understand such speed controls and additional cautions required to be adhered to. Site received all types of vehicles from light to heavy trailers and very heavy construction equipment. What are definitions? Safety means safety, health and environment disciplines to support project activities. Company means an organization carrying out or prosecuting project. Contractor means